Welcome back to the Super Good, Super Delicious podcast. I'm your host, Carly, as usual. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about food anxiety. I've come to find that I don't hear anyone talking about food anxiety literally ever. I feel like I've made this term up. Okay, you guys, I always felt like I was just crazy because no one else deals with this problem. And I've honestly don't think I've really met anyone that has been anxious over eating. I did a little quick research into what exactly it is, and most of the things that popped up actually had to do with ED, so eating disorders, which totally makes sense. So, you're around food, it makes you feel some type of way. It's under an umbrella. It could make you feel any type of way. Maybe it makes you want to eat, makes you not want to eat. But in my case, it's very particular, it's very specific. I'm not really sure exactly how mine started, but it started because of my food allergies and my gut health problems. So I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that. Like if you have Crohn's or IBS, things like that, even other food allergies where you might be going out to eat somewhere and you just don't know if there's food there that will upset your stomach or not. So the way that I see food anxiety for me specifically is that it makes me nervous to actually eat. So if I'm around people or not, it's never at home. Obviously, I'm comfortable at home. I've made the food myself. I know it's safe to eat for me. It's when I'm out of the house, at someone else's house, anywhere where the food is prepared for me, or in previous years when I have been away from home, like an hour away or half an hour away. Basically, if I'm too far away from home that I couldn't just drive right from the restaurant back home within 15 minutes-ish because my stomach's upset, I have anxiety. I follow a few influencers, I guess you could say influencers, people on Instagram that talk about body positivity. So a lot of that, and then there are a few pages which they have, and I don't want YouTube to ding me, so I don't want to say the verbiage too much, but where they have talked about going from having issues with food from previous years where they had problems, they didn't want to eat because they wanted to be very skinny, and then now being comfortable gaining weight. And so I follow a few pages that are like the Birds Papaya, for example, and Own It Babe. They're very comfortable in my own skin, and you should be too. I would think that would be the type of person that would have dealt with food anxiety as well. And whenever they talk about anxiety or anything mental health related, it's never to do with actually food. I also felt like that was unique to me as well, considering I've literally never heard people talk about it before that even had problems with food in general. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just sit down and let's just record a little episode talking about food anxiety, because I have been dealing with it for years. I don't think I ever had an issue as a child or growing up. Obviously, you might be embarrassed at school of eating something, or I think a lot of people can relate to this, not liking eating in public, or was lunchtime at school and you're all sitting in a cafeteria or whatever, and you're like, oh, it's so awkward to eat beside other kids that aren't my best friends or whatever. It can be kind of weird. So I think that's a fairly common thing that happens growing up in school, especially once you get into high school. So I wouldn't say that I was ever really felt that way. I never could eat much. growing up, I was always a very small, petite person. Maybe this is where it started because I remember whenever we would go out to eat, like, and even at home, my parents were always, finish what's on your plate, you have to eat everything, yada yada. And, like, I'm a small kid, like, I can eat that much food. I just wasn't me. I didn't really love food that much. Like, of course, I like chocolates and stuff like that, but I was just eating because you're supposed to eat 3 meals a day. So, like, it wasn't like I didn't think too much about it. Now, thinking back, like when we went out to eat in the city, so I'm from a small town. If we went out to eat in the city, I almost could never finish like a burger or anything like that. My dad always had to finish my food. I always got like the baby size meals and burgers because I couldn't even finish a burger, y'all. Like I had no appetite when I was a kid. And so even going out with like my grandparents taking me on birthdays and stuff, like I would just feel so awkward because I'm like, I know I can't eat that much food. And like, of course, it's such like parents and grandparents and people, like they're always like, eat, 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 eat. And then you're like, I'm trying, like, I'm literally full. So actually, that makes me think because I remember having a thought about that I messed up my, not me, okay, it's my parents are to blame, messed up my sensory in my stomach, basically, or my brain, whatever, that tells you when you're full. Because for so many years of my life, it was finish what's on your plate. So I was constantly eating more than what I was comfortable with, which I know I'm a small person, but like I had a very small stomach. I didn't need to eat that much. So for me, it was like I was like constantly eating past my like sensing that I'm full. So sometimes for me, it's hard to actually know if I'm full. So sometimes I oftentimes just push it and like I'm like, okay, I'm like full, but I'll eat. Like when I'm at home, usually and the food is good, I'll just keep eating until my plate's empty. So that's probably just a bad habit, but like it's fine. I like to think I don't do that every meal. Oh my gosh, do I have a problem, you guys? I think I'm gonna actually learn to pay attention a little bit more to my body and make sure. I think I have been since being like diagnosed celiac. I think I've noticed that I can tell when my body's changing and like that I am full and that I'm full enough that I don't need to keep finishing what's on my plate. Like it's okay, just pack it up for tomorrow. So I think I have gotten better at like just packing my food up for tomorrow. So that's just a bit of like my growing up with food history, and who knows if it caused me any issues. But there's that. And so I don't really think it gave me like food anxiety or anything like that. But if I did not say it clearly enough, food anxiety to me is I have to go to someone's house to eat food, or I go out to a restaurant, like let's say we go to Toronto an hour and a half away or something like that, and we have to eat at a restaurant. I get very nervous and anxious to eat. Years ago, when I first realized like this is a problem, because I've been in the thick for years of not knowing like what I can and cannot eat, aside from dairy, which was not that scary to try to avoid. But once my issues started getting worse, I'm assuming to do with celiac. Once my food issues started to get worse and I wasn't really sure what was going on, that's really when I was like, I have a problem eating, like outside of my house. So essentially, the anxiety is that I'm gonna eat this and I'm gonna get sick. Like, how could you not have anxiety when you think every single thing that you're eating is like gonna make you sick? But I wouldn't say every single thing, I'm just being dramatic. Eating at home, of course, most times I knew I was not gonna get sick. Well, so I thought, which obviously I didn't know I had celiac. Imagine you're out in a public situation at a restaurant, or you're out at a friend's house or family's house, and you already have a little bit of like pressure of being like normal and talking. And what I mean by normal is like you're having conversations, you're laughing, you're being, you know, your usual self, happy, whatever. You're eating, you're just having a good time. But for me, if that anxiety hits, when it hits, it's like I'm the opposite. Like it's silence. It's like I'm just sitting here hoping and praying that my stomach isn't just going to like turn on me and I'm going to be in the bathroom, or I'm going to be laying on the couch and I'm like feeling lightheaded, or I'm feeling nauseous, or I'm just feeling out of it. So I can't talk anymore like a normal situation that I would be. That brings more anxiety because now I'm awkward. I'm being weird. Why am I not talking? Like, something wrong? Yeah, something's wrong. Very much, but it's very deep, and I'm not going to explain it other than, yeah, I'm a bit anxious. But it's hard also, you don't want to step on people's toes and be like, well, this food that I'm eating is making me have some serious anxiety right now that I'm going to get sick. It kind of makes you feel like you're weak. And I don't like feeling that way. I don't like feeling out of control. And so that really, it really made me feel out of control because I really at that point didn't know. And this is like this is maybe around 5 years ago, I like really noticed more so. I think it started getting worse 5 years ago. Where at first it was kind of like I would be pretty good, but I was kind of already starting to be like, I don't really like eating in front of people as much. Which, like I said, it's like fair. I think that's kind of normal. A relatable thing that happens. Something that I used to do. I kind of used to like test myself. This is how I refer to it as because it makes me sound kind of insane. But what I used to tell Clay sometimes is I'm just thinking of the feeling of when my stomach turns on me. So for me, if something's gonna upset my stomach, or if my stomach's going to get upset, you get like a knot in your stomach. You know what I mean? You get like a knot, and then you get like a hot flash, like, oh, my stomach's upset. So in my brain, I would kind of think about that, and I would get like a little like nervous butterflies throughout my body. And if I was going to get sick, I would. And if I thought of that feeling and I got my little butterflies and then nothing, I was going to be okay. So I would oftentimes do this, but sometimes I obviously like I would try not to because I don't want to end up like, yeah, I'm going to be sick. I don't want to be sick. So sometimes I was like, hey, don't do that because I don't want to end up this going the wrong direction. But sometimes I couldn't help myself because my anxiety was so bad that I literally would just be like, oh my God, am I going to get sick? And then I'd be like, waiting. And I'm like, oh, okay. I think I'm going to be okay. And think I'm going to be okay for the next couple hours, maybe the rest of the day. So once I started to really realize like what was going on, plus then I started realizing that, oh, I can't eat gluten. But once I started realizing that the anxiety was coming from eating, like the actual eating, once I was like, hey, once I figure out what I can't eat, like it'll go away. Which, to be honest, it pretty much has gone. Now that I know what I cannot eat, like I feel so much safer and better about actually eating, and I know that I'll be fine. Like I'm not gonna get sick, so I feel way more comfortable and like back to normal. Like I can eat, have a good time, not be thinking like, am I going to get sick? So that's a really good feeling. If you've been there, I feel you, and I hope I'm not the only person that's dealt with this. Going back to like 10 years ago, probably more than that now, almost 11 years ago. I have this vivid memory. This is one of the first times that I realized like something more is wrong. I don't know if that's totally mentally or if it's physically, like to do with food. But this is how I know like how supportive Clay is. Because he was there on this fateful day. We're talking like 2013, early 2013. It must have been like July. Yeah, I think it was like July 2013. I forget what, we weren't even actually boyfriend and girlfriend. We were hanging out. We were just getting to know each other, like going on dates and stuff. And so we hadn't known each other for that long. Mind you, we worked together, but he worked in the kitchen and I was a server, so we didn't really like communicate that much. I was like, oh yeah, I was feeling fine, and I was like, oh yeah, we were done at the same time or whatever. We're like, I'm like, come over, we'll hang out. So we're downtown Calgary, and we hop on a bus. I think we just stopped at McDonald's and got like wraps and a fry or something, like something really small, just for the bus ride home. I remember having like some fries, holding fries in my hands, and we're sitting on the bus or the C train, I can't remember what it was. And I'm literally sitting there, and all of a sudden, I'm just like something just switched, and I'm like, I don't feel good. But what happened was, I just went like silent mode. All of a sudden, I feel weird. I can't talk to anyone, like even Clay. I was like, like I literally was like just trying not to die. Like that's how I feel when I feel weird. I say like I feel weird, and Clay just understands exactly what's happening. It's like I'm just in my head, and my stomach is just like, you are not gonna do anything. Anything that takes energy, it's not happening because you're dying. It's hard to explain, but if you've ever been there, it's a very weird sensation. It's like you're literally just feel sick all of a sudden. It's similar to like being nauseous, where you're like having to like heavily breathe in and out so you don't throw up, except for you're not going to throw up. You're just going to feel trapped in your own body, and you can't do anything about it. So this was like our very experience, and it was like a joined experience. And Clay's just sitting beside me, and he's like, oh, like, are you okay? Like, I'm like, no, like, I don't know, I feel like not good or something. And it just hit me like that too. It wasn't like anything leading up. It was just all of a sudden I was like, we're sitting on the bus home, and I'm like, I don't feel good. And I didn't know how to communicate to him what I was feeling, but he was very understanding. Yeah, he had a crush on me. So he was really understanding about it, and he was just like, do you want me to leave? Like, I can go home. But I was like, no, like, don't leave me, like, stay here, because I didn't know what was gonna happen. Like, am I gonna get sick? Am I gonna faint? Am I gonna pass out? Like, what is gonna happen to me right now? So I'm like, no, I want you right here, and I want you to come home with me because I don't feel good, and like, you're my like, and this was so, like I told you, like we were just hanging out, but he was that like safety blanket for me from the get-go. Like, I felt super comfortable with him, and I wanted him there for me because something was not right. And if I remember correctly, maybe it was half an hour of a bus ride, because you know buses stop and go and stop and go. But I'm pretty sure, like, by the time I got home and we got into the apartment and everything, I was actually starting to feel better. And I was just like, okay, like, that was weird. Like, maybe I'm fine, I guess. And from what I recall, like, we were fine. I don't know if maybe my stomach got upset after that, but this is the thing. That now was stuck in my brain from then on. I was just stuck with, I might get that weird feeling and behave weirdly, and then what if I pass out? Or what if I throw up? Or what if now, 15 minutes from now, or that my stomach might get upset just immediately and I have to go and like explode in the bathroom. That is not cute if you're not at home, okay? Not cute. So I did not want any of those things to happen. So now it's stuck in my brain moving forward. oh shoot, if I eat something, it might just make me like that again. And people are gonna think I'm like something like really wrong with me, or like I'm being like really weird, and I don't know what to do about it. And it also gave me the time frame, which now I'm recalling is a time frame that I stuck to for a lot of years. If Clay and I were out running around doing errands, and I'm like, oh no, I don't feel good. First of all, I didn't even have to tell him. This, if you guys watched the last podcast episode with Clay, you could kind of see, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but you can kind of see that like he's been there, he's been through everything with me for years. He could just feel the vibe like immediately. He felt I was off, and it ended up getting to him being like, are you okay? And I just would be like, like, because I was being so silent. And a lot of the times this would happen in the car, which is why it really added on the addition of if we leave the house, because a lot of the time we'd leave the house and I'd be like, oh great, now I don't feel good. So many times he would just be like, are you okay? And, or like, are you sick? And then I would just be like, I don't know. I actually think that was my answer most of the time, was just, I don't know. And that always meant yes. But I also always, so I have like fear of vomiting. So growing up, I never liked to admit if I felt sick, because if you admit that you feel like you're gonna vomit, most likely you're gonna vomit. And so I never liked admitting that I didn't feel well. So it was kind of a nice like medium of me being like, oh, I don't know. But I'm so silent. He just knows I'm like crumbling inside and I don't know what to do. And I just like, talking is not going to help. It's going to harm, or that's what I believed, is that I can't even talk because it's going to make it worse. It's like so nice to have someone that you can literally just rely on, and then as soon as I say like, yeah, I'm not feeling that good, he would just do everything he can. He would be like, okay, if we just have to stop a few more plates, or he'd be like, do you need to go home like right now? And I could tell him like, no, or like, yeah, actually, yeah, I need to go home right now. Or like, I would get hot flashes. So I'd like roll down the window and just be like, I just need some like fresh air, or we just need to pull over and like stop somewhere and I need to go for a walk, just get some fresh air, just get my body moving. And I can like move out of it. Where one time I remember we were going to the grocery store. He just went in the store by himself. He's like, hey, just like stay out here if that's what you need, whatever. And I remember getting out of the car and like, I think it was cold because I was wearing a winter jacket. And I remember getting out of the car when he was in the store and just like squatting down beside the car because I felt so horrible. But like for some reason, if I squatted on the ground, like that made me feel better. Like sitting in the car, oh my gosh, this is bringing back so many memories that I used to just recline the seat and I would just lay on my left side. So really big tip for you, if you have an upset stomach, any upset stomach, I'm not lying, lay on your left side. The way your stomach is shaped, laying on your left side makes everything flow the proper direction, where if you lay on your right side, it's actually the opposite. So it's harmful and not helpful. So lay on your left side, like just straight on your left side. If you ever have a stomach problem, it has saved my life so many times. I used to actually just curl up sideways. I'd recline the seat, the passenger seat, and I would just curl up sideways. And a lot of the time that would really help with my like feeling weird, or if I was feeling sick or getting sick, it would help for the duration of like till we got home, where I could then come inside and explode. That's a very interesting memory that I have. So if you can tell, this is a lot of related to problems with celiac and a lot of symptoms. Those are some things that I actually really forgot about. My camera cut off recording, and I didn't realize until I was editing it a few days later. So that's why I look a little bit different. So it's really nice to have someone that is totally understanding what you're going through, well, to an extent, and then can just be there and like whatever you need, they got you. So that was really awesome. It's funny how like this little like memories that throughout the video just like triggers my memory just talking about this kind of stuff. Like I said, a lot of these things now I've realized are like super related to celiac disease and my symptoms from eating gluten, which I had zero idea that I couldn't eat gluten ever. I don't know when it started, and I mean, if you could imagine, perhaps it's been 10 years, and it's just increasingly gotten worse and worse for me. What I found to be extremely helpful with the anxiety was actually challenging it and doing the things that made me really uncomfortable. So, one, finding out the food and cutting it out made me way more comfortable. But in addition to that, actually keeping doing things like eating outside of my house or at people's houses, obviously, if you know you eat your own food or whatever, um, it just helped so much more. Like, just challenging those things that give you anxiety help you so much to just overcome it. I used to be anxious to literally just leave the house. Like, I was anxious to drive on the highway, and like I've been driving since I was 16. So, and driving in Calgary, a huge city, on the highway every single day to work for years, and I now all of a sudden am all nervous and anxious to drive. So I don't know if that's food anxiety related, but I will have to say it. I feel like it kind of like crept in, um, because now I'm just anxious about everything and anxious to just leave the house, drive the car. Like, I'm like, please drive me everywhere because I don't want to drive. I'm scared or whatever. And so just honestly challenging those, like, I had to take my final driver's test, and I was like full blown panic attack when I was waiting for the driver instructor. It was horrible. Like, I was so bad at one point, but like overcoming that and then like just keeping on doing things like that helped so much, where I might get nervous to do things nowadays, but like it's nothing compared to that. Just keep fighting it and you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it has been such a long journey, literally. It's actually wild, like going through everything and thinking back to like kind of when my food anxiety started and then how it's ended up now, where I feel like really good going over to someone's house and like eating stuff that I know will be good for like fine for me. I don't have those like really, really intense anxious feelings anymore. Especially like while eating, I'm kind of like eating and I'm like, well, I feel good, so like, don't even think about it. And it's just like out of my mind. And that will be it for this episode. I really enjoyed just going through that whole time in my life, which was a big portion of my life, to be honest. Struggling with the food anxiety and eating, and just not knowing if I was ever gonna not be sick after eating. So I hope that my tips helped you. I hope that, you know, if you're struggling with this as well, that you just keep pushing and keep going, and it will get better. I can be proof of that once you find out what's really bothering you, and then you just remove that item. It just like gets better every day from there, and then you just keep challenging yourself and you keep growing, and then eventually you'll be in a good spot again. I'd like to say again. But that will be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!